Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Bites. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons.
Welcome back for another podcast. Tonight I'm going to be talking about minimizing the static in your life. And probably 4 or 5 days ago, I made some notes and I decided this was the topic I needed to talk to you about tonight. And then yesterday I listened to a podcast that I don't listen to often, probably only listen to 3 or 4 by this particular person. And they interviewed this very interesting lady. And I thought, gee, I really liked how the conversation went. So today I looked her up on YouTube, and her latest offering there was about how to reduce static in your life. And I'm like, synchronicity, there we go. I'm on the right track. I know the universe is speaking to me and confirming that tonight I need to talk to you guys, because there's at least one of the 8 billion people on this planet who's listening right now, sometime in the future, who needs to hear this message. So what do I mean when I talk about static? For me, I would suggest it could be the moments in life that we don't enjoy, because they're moments when we're at a low vibration or a vibration that's not optimal for us or for you. And, you know, the vibration I'm at the moment may or may not be optimal for me, but someone else at the same vibration, it could be utopia for them, or it could be something they don't enjoy at all. So we're all very different. So we've just got to realize that it's what we need, that personal at the time. So now everything is vibrating at different speeds. Scientists tell us that things like this table that I'm leaning on right now aren't really solid. They tell us it's just neurons and protons and atoms spinning around at incredibly amazing speeds, and they're very densely attracted together with some sort of invisible magnetic force. And I think if you have a microscope powerful enough, you can see right through them, and it's 99%, or far more than that, air. And it's just the density of those molecules and atoms and neurons and protons and all sorts of other things in there. I don't have a major scientific mind to describe all the things that are there going around, spinning around, and it forms this table that feels solid to us. So everything, including ourselves, is vibrating. Now, some things vibrate. We hear vibrations, and sometimes they sound nice. If someone got their fingernails and pulled them down the chalkboard, that would cause a vibration that most people would not enjoy. So we listen to our favorite song. How's that produced? It's vibration. It travels through the air to your device, and then the speaker that's sending out the message, if you look into the speaker, you'll see it vibrating. And it's either vibrations we enjoy that resonate with our ear, with our body. It's the vibe. We feel it. We don't only hear the music through our ears, we feel it through our body. So if it's like fingernails down a chalkboard, it's static, of an extreme type. So, and that's something we're not enjoying. So we want to get past that. We want to get onto something that we do enjoy. So everything's attracted or repelled by nearby frequencies. You know the old magnet story. You played with magnets when you were a kid, I presume. I know I did a lot, had a lot of fun with them. And if you put 2 ends together, they stick together and it's hard to pull them apart. And then you turn one of the magnets around, the other end repels. So we've also got all these invisible forces in nature, in the world that we live in here on this planet. And these forces, these vibrations, these frequencies send out vibrations, and our bodies pick them up in many different ways. And so we tend to become what we surround ourselves with. So the frequencies because people give off frequencies, whether you realize it or not. We give off body odor if we've been out working on a summer's day. We give off vibrations from our mouth, our tongue, our lips as we speak or sing. And those vibrations, those sounds may be enjoyable to others or not. The smells we give off on our body, that's like frequency that's being given out. Some of them are pleasant, some of them are not. And I think you know what I mean. So how do we minimize this static? How do we minimize these frequencies, these vibrations that we're sensing? And how do we attract those that we enjoy? Well, if you're listening to an old-fashioned radio, it's got a dial. We need to adjust the dial. How do we adjust the dial in our life so that we attract the frequencies, the vibrations that we enjoy? One, a starter for me, the big one that started me on my journey to changing the frequencies in my life was food. And I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm going to rattle some of these off. And if you're thinking, oh, I really want to work on some of these, Doug, just listen to the half a dozen things I'm going to talk about here and work on one of them. Don't try and work on them all together. It's just, it can be overwhelming and too much. And then you don't have success at all and you feel bad about yourself. We don't want that. We want something effective. So we take baby steps. So for me, it was food. And what happened when I changed my diet? And I changed it permanently. I didn't go on a diet. I just changed what I was eating for good. And I eat now, and for the last 12 years, I've been eating as little processed food as possible. Now, have I been eating processed food? Oh yeah. But I eat as little as possible. I just find things that have preservatives and all sorts of other unusual things in them that if you could read the chemical name and the description of that and what it was originally invented and designed for, you potentially might not want to put that in your body. So that's one, because I found a couple of months after I stopped eating processed food, my clarity of mind came. So to me, the static in my mind that was blocking a lot of things out, blocking a lot of frequencies out that I now enjoy receiving, messages, information, knowledge, it was being blocked before, I believe, by the frequency that was going on in my body with all the processed food. All right, so I'll leave that one there. And if you think that and I read a book, but before I read the book, I was having these thoughts for months before that I wanted to change what I was eating, but I had no idea how to do that. And in our home, I'm not the chief cook. My wife is. She prepares the food. That's how things happen. She absolutely loves doing that. She's awesomely good at preparing food. And she's got a wonderful kitchen and she loves doing all that in there. And that's her thing. So I started to read a particular book and it talked about the issues on our health with processed food. And so I chose to change my eating habits from doing that. All right. Another one that I've found for me personally, very helpful, is meditating every day. Minimum of 10 minutes. Usually I like 15, 20 minutes. If I can get 30 or 40 minutes in, great. My mind tends to wander often, so often I find myself doing guided meditations. So I go online, I've got some on my computer, on my phone that I've downloaded, some I've bought because I really enjoy the person who produces them. Some I've got for free, some I've paid a couple of dollars for 10 of them, and I enjoy all of them. I listen to some of them just for a year or two, like randomly, once a month I'll listen to that one because I've got a lot of them. And then sometimes as the years go on, I enjoy those less, so I stop listening to them and find some more. There's a ton out there. I strongly recommend you get into a habit daily of meditating. Another one for me is getting out, and this goes contrary to our current science. Get out in the sun. And don't go out there and get sunburnt and say, this is what Doug told me to do. I'm not telling you to go and get sunburnt. When I go outside, I wear a hat. All right, I've got acreage property. I'm out in the yard a lot. It's spring now, and the last couple of weeks, my hat's gone back on. The sun's higher in the sky, it's a little warmer, and so I protect myself that way. But our skin needs sunlight. It brings in vitamin D into our body, and that helps with a myriad of other things. People with a vitamin D deficiency are often physically unhealthy. It causes all sorts of other issues. So I recommend getting some sun every day. I've heard that early morning and late afternoon sun are very good for you. So early morning and late afternoon sun have less strength in them. You're not likely to get sunburnt at those times of day. How long should you go in the sun? More than a minute or two, that's for sure. If you can be out there for 10, 15 minutes, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I haven't studied heavily into this on how long you should exactly be out there. Do some studies for yourself if you think this is the one on the list that you need to add to your repertoire. Alcohol. Oh, Doug's telling us to drink alcohol. Didn't say that. If you don't drink alcohol at all, you can just fast forward this bit till I get on to the next one. I'm not saying don't drink alcohol. Do I drink alcohol? Yeah. We've got a friend down the road who's last week opened his own tap room. He's got his own brewery, and I went down there on. He had a special opening for locals who live near the area. I went to that 2 days later, which was the official opening for the public. I went to that again. I had 2 beers each time. That's the most beer I've drunk in a year. Right now, I'm down to probably have alcohol once a month. So what are you saying here, Doug? You're saying we shouldn't drink. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't drink, but I'm just suggesting that alcohol causes static in your life. And the whole subject of the podcast is helping you to minimize the static in your life. I'm not saying do not drink at all. I'm suggesting you may want to reduce the amount of alcohol. It depends. I mean, you know in the back of your mind, you know whether you're drinking a little too much. So, you judge it for yourself. I'll say no more on that one. I'm not saying do not drink alcohol, not for a second. I just told you I drink alcohol at times, but to excess, it will definitely cause some static. It will upset that frequency thing. Next one, nature, getting out in nature. And if you live in the middle of suburbia, try and get yourself onto some grass with some bare feet for 10 to 20 minutes a day if you can. If you live in an apartment and out on the balcony or inside you've got some indoor plants, hey, work around in the dirt a little bit through the day if you can with your bare hands on the dirt. Things like that. Get out. If you can get out and take a walk in nature, if you're like we are, we've got the beach nearby, we can go for a walk on the beach. And the thing I love there, summer or winter, if I'm just walking on the beach, I love to walk right on the edge of where the waves come in and the water comes up and then recedes back down and get that fresh, cool water running around your feet and on your ankles. It's just, I love it. I absolutely love that. Not everyone loves water like that, but, get out in the woods, go on a hike, get out on some nature. And if it's just too far to get anywhere, try and find a tree and go and lean up against it and read a book. Trees are amazing things. And here's something, probably 7 years ago, I went and did some training interstate on how to reduce the effects and reduce electromagnetic frequencies. And the gentleman who ran the 3-day course, he took us on a field trip on the second day, and we went driving out into the country. And he pointed out there was these large 110,000 volt power lines, the main ones that were coming from the power generation plant, distributing the power out through the countryside. And they were huge, big power lines. And so he drove us past them, and we stopped and we put our little electrical meters on, and the needle went crazy, and we turned the sound up, and it sounded like a radioactive Geiger counter, bzz, bzz, buzzing away. And then he said, all right, see the big tree over there? There was a huge, big, round tree. massive one, must have been 50 or 100 years old. He said, we're just going to walk towards the trunk of that tree. And we were still very close to these very powerful overhead lines. And as we got in under the tree, the gauge on our electrical sensing meters just went down and went right down to zero. So he said, there you go. You've got this massive power lines over you, and we can see from the electrical meter you would not want to live here. But if you have trees around, they naturally shield us from those sort of harmful effects. So getting out in nature is a pretty cool thing to do. It helps all sorts of stuff. I've traveled over to California 3 times a few years ago to learn how to clear energy in people and in spaces. And I can remember one day talking to my teacher, Jean, and I said, there was a particular area we were doing, and I said, what about the backyard? Should we go out there? And she just smiled and said, Doug, nature balances itself and clears its own energy. We only need to assist with people's personal space and the spaces, these artificial spaces, our homes that we live in. Once we get outside, nature sorts itself out and it balances itself out. So when we join ourselves there, we become what we surround ourselves with. And if we go into nature, we start to balance our energy, and that will reduce the static in your life. All right, so I think I've given you quite a few there to things to think about. Are there more things? Sure, I just quickly made a few notes. I don't want to bombard you with all sorts of things. And just remember, I was talking there and I didn't say go and do all of these things this week. All right, work on one of them. Work on the one that resonates with you. You know, if you might have 1 or 2 of those totally sorted. You're like, Doug, I don't drink alcohol, and 3 times a week I go on hikes or I go surfing at the beach or whatever. So you've nailed those couple. All right, awesome. And I'll ask you this, do you think they help? Why do you do it? Because it makes you feel better. Why does it feel better? Because it's attracting a frequency to you, to your physical body. Well, it seems like it's our physical body, but we have all sorts of different types of energy fields in and around this physical body that we walk around in, and it makes you feel better. So when you do those things, it helps. So quickly go over them again. Food, reduce the amount of processed food. So what are we looking for? I just talked before about getting out into nature. We're looking for natural food with the least amount of processing to it possible. Yeah, all right, don't get extreme on that one. That's not what we want. I'm not suggesting we get extreme and then we get unbalanced in some other area of our life. Just try and reduce the stuff that's not natural that goes in your body. Meditation, try and make that one a daily habit. That's a really, really beneficial one for balancing our frequencies. And get out in the sun, preferably early morning, late afternoon sun if you can, and into nature and reducing the alcohol. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. If this is the first time you've come across my podcast and you're thinking, I actually quite enjoyed that, click the subscribe button, whatever's in the format that you're listening to, it's on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or whatever platform you're on, so that you'll be notified of another episode. If you've listened and you think, yeah, okay, that was interesting, but yeah, I'm passing by, that's fine. Pass on by. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there. If you don't see this little face again, or you don't hear my voice again, I wish you well, and I hope that from now until the end of your time here on the earth, you can at least take one of those points and adjust it for the better, to help minimize and reduce the static in your life, to improve the frequencies, to make your life more enjoyable. Thanks for listening in. Bye-bye.
while we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.